All right, let's see how fast we can make this angle bracket out of carbon steel. And we got a couple of extra requirements up here. We'll begin, of course, by making a sketch of the base. And it's kind of unusual. First of all, it looks like there's a rectangular piece here, but the top is shorter than the bottom. So we'll start that sketch so that we're going off to the left-hand side. We're going to go 3 inches and then zero back in on the part. Give us a little bit of space to work with. We're going to go up 2.5. Try to get that at 90 degrees, 2.5, and then back an unknown distance. We're going to leave it just like that. And then we're going up and to the left, just an arbitrary distance. So going up like this, like that, and then back here. Of course, that doesn't look exactly right. We need to have these two things being parallel to each other. So let's put some constraints in there. Parallel and parallel. Right there. All right. What else do we know? Well, we know that the length of this line right here, from corner to the place where the circle is going to start at the end, is 2.5. So we set that dimension at 2.5. Notice I had to click there to get it to show up. 2.5. And we can kind of move some of these off. And remember, if we got too many significant figures, we can always go into Tools, Document Settings, Units, and then roll those to decimal places back to just 2, as we see in this diagram. Now, these two need to be perpendicular to each other, so we can make that another engineering constraint between here and there. So it's looking better already. And let's go ahead and put that circle in place. And in this one, we're going to be using the Born technique, whereby we do all this sketching before we do an extrude. So the arc has to be a center point arc at the midpoint, going over like this to there. And then we can make this line a hidden line because we don't really want to extrude that part. We also have a circle that is 1.25 in diameter. And then this one right here has a radius of 1.5. So it's starting to look a little bit better, although it does look like it's a little bit off, especially on this distance here. Okay, that actually says 2.75, not 2.5. So we will double check that one or double click that one. 0.75, looking a little bit better. 3. And let's go ahead and put our slot in there. I like to use the center to center slot. And the size of this, I'm going to type in as 0.5. Oh, wait, that seems to like it put the distance in there instead. So I'll just use the old fashioned technique where we draw it in here and then measure after the fact. So the dimensions right here to there, it's going to be 0.5, as it says in our diagram. Needs to be 1.5 from here to there. Needs to be 0.75 from the corner. And a vertical distance of 0.5. We do a little cleanup on the placement of this, making it look professional. These go to the outside, the smaller ones go to the inside. Looks like that's fully defined, but we got some other pieces up in here. It's probably just this angle of 30 degrees. And here's a trick. You try to measure the angle with respect to the x-axis, but you can't select it. So you can't really select it to make that angle as far as I can tell. Yeah, it's just doing that again. So what you can do is say select something along the x-axis, which is this line here. Then you can come back over here and then type in 30. So that prevents you from having to go in there and make a hidden line to use as a reference. Now we got everything pretty much fully constrained. Do we have everything needed before we do the extrusion? Not quite. We want to do a fillet, a sketch fillet on the end, and it says all rounds are 0.25. So sketch fillet, 0.25, and then we select this side for that fillet, this side, that side for that fillet, And we are done. At this point, we're ready to extrude it by a distance of 0.75. Extrude this shape right there, 0.75. And so this is, let's see, there we go. This is called the Bourne technique, where we're not making a block and then cutting away, but rather we make a sketch and then that has pretty much all the features needed for the extrusion moving forward. Now, this one says we need to create a working plane. So this is a new feature we need to learn how to use, and that's creating a working plane that's hovering above this other one. So we're going to select a plane that's offset from this one. We're going to pull it up a little bit. And I can see that the gap right here, it has to be basically 2.25 minus those two for that gap. So we're going to make a plane up here that we can draw that on and extrude it upwards. So you can do it like this, 2.25 minus 0.75 minus 0.75. It will do the math for you, giving you that elevated plane. Maybe take a look at it this way instead and orbit over, hit the control key by accident, and we're ready to sketch on this plane. Now what we can do is kind of, let's see, are we sketching yet? I'm not sure if we're sketching. Okay, there's green. What we're going to do is, instead of drawing this shape again, we're going to use something called project geometry. So we'll select project geometry, and we're going to project that arc onto this working plane, as well as this circle and those two lines. So once I do that, you'll see that now I have almost a completed sketch from which I can extrude. So I'm going to finish that up by closing off that shape, and then I can extrude that downward, I suppose. So let's see. Actually, I need to extrude it upward because we're making this elevated piece up at the top. So extrude, and then this shape is still on 0.75. How easy was that? Now, when we turn it in, we do want to leave the working plane visible, but for now, I'm going to hide it to get it out of our view. Let's see, where's the visibility? There it is. And the other thing we want to do is basically extrude up from this surface here, and then we'll cut away this diagonal as the final cut. So I feel like I want to draw on this surface and then extrude up to here. In order to do that, I'm going to suppress this part that's hovering. So suppress this feature. I'm going to draw on this surface. And I'm going to try to draw that rectangle that I'm going to extrude upward. So I'm going to draw on this surface, new sketch. And I want something that kind of looks, I guess, perpendicular to those two surfaces, like this and like that, a closed shape. From the corner, let's see if I can rotate it around to make it look like the other one. From the corner, it's going to be 0.5 from right there to there, 1.5 rather. And you got to click close and then pull it away, 1.5. And then going for this shorter distance, making it look just like the drawing from there to there. And click here and pull out 0.75. Okay, I'm kind of surprised it's not fully defined. Maybe we need to make some things perpendicular to each other. This needs to be perpendicular to that. This needs to be perpendicular to that. I guess it overdid it a little bit. So I wonder what it is that we're missing. I don't see it yet, but maybe it'll come to us in a moment. So we do have this and that. We could go in here and say, can you show us what the degrees of freedom are? And apparently it thinks it can move to the left and right. I'm not seeing that. Oh, like that. Okay, so there is kind of an issue here. It thinks that there's this line that's connecting them that's not on that line. So let's go ahead and close off that and see if that convinces it that we're actually done. How about that? So there's an interesting technique that we used there to achieve what we're looking for. Fully constrained part, extruding this up. Before I extrude it up, I think I'm just going to unsuppress this other piece. So we're going to finish up that. There's the extrusion that I suppressed. I'm going to unsuppress it so that way I can take this shape and then from that sketch and extrude that up to meet the other part. So what we can do is say go up to two next, I guess, and then click OK. And so we got our H shape right there that we now need to cut away. So we need to cut that part off. And that's our final part, except for we'll have to stamp some weights on the surface and show the working plane again. But everything else is looking pretty good. Let's draw on this surface for the final cut. New sketch, zero in. And if you look closely, you can see that the cut needs to look like, let's see, from here up to here. We can just cut all this material off. All right, let's see if that actually makes sense. Looks like we need to have this angle is 75 degrees, so that's not defined yet. So we try to get this angle here, but then you can just use this as your reference to make that 75. And you can see this is fully defined. The rest of this doesn't necessarily need to be because we're just going to be using that as a tool to perform a cut. So let's go ahead and see if that looks good going all the way through. Do we have something that looks right? Sure enough. The next thing we want to do is maybe change the material. It's going to have you change it to carbon steel. Remember that how you do that is you go up here to properties and physical properties, and then change this over here to carbon steel. At that point, what you'll do is you'll read off the weight. I'm not going to do that at this point because I want you to determine the weight, and I want you to stamp the weight down on this surface. Not really sure what that little dot is right there. I'm not sure if this is just a defect or something. Interesting. Might be something shining through the surface. Oh, that was my pivot point. Let's just put our lettering on this surface. So let's begin a sketch, and we're going to put some lettering on that surface, draw it right out like this. And it needs to say something about the weight. I'm just going to put 1.23 lb for the pounds. And you'll see that it's wrapping without me doing anything. And that's because the size of this is not exactly right. And also the rotation is incorrect as well. So what you can do is, um, first of all, change the size of this so that it just kind of goes around it like so. And then we'll do our rotation. I'm going to use a rotate tool on the sketch tab. We need to select the object, make it green, then select the corner that we want to rotate, and then we just want to line it up horizontally. We could even go up here and just type in 90 degrees, I think. Yep. And then we want to place it properly right above this slot. We want it to be a bigger font, so we double click on it. Make sure that you highlight the text first, otherwise it will not work. We can use any one of these fonts. I'm just going to select one at random. Use the font that the assignment gave you, though. That's an odd one. And you can change the size here to that, but I like going to a much bigger size like this. That's an odd one to use. I really want you to use the one that's given in the assignment, but I'll keep moving forward. You see the wrapping that's taking place here? To handle that, you move this over to the side and make this bigger so that it can handle that. At this point, what we want to do is either extrude into a boss or make an engraving. It kind of gives you the option of which one you want to do. I'm going to try to do, first of all, a 0.04, like a 1 millimeter. That's 0.04 inches is about 1 millimeter. And we need to select the shape. Or did I already do that? Profile. There it is. And then this is going to raise it. So this is what it's going to look like raised. And you can leave it like that if you want to, or you can edit the feature, edit. Oh, that's editing the sketch, not the right way. We're going to say, let's see, cancel that. We need to edit the features. That's a little bit different thing, edit feature. And we can change it to a cut instead. So now we see that it goes down. So I'll let you decide which one you want to do, which one makes more sense. Of course, either one kind of slightly changes the weight. So just make sure that's a shallow 1 millimeter cut when you do it. Probably pick a better font than I did. All right, center it up at the end, and then make sure you put your working plane back in the view state right there, And you are done for this one. This demonstrates that you've not only learned about working planes that are hovering, but also we learned about suppression of parts and also lettering, rotating, changing the font size, etc. All right, I'll see you in the next video.